94% of women in Hollywood say that they have experienced sexual harassment or assault. This from the USA Today. That means that 793 out of 834 women polled. That's a huge number have experienced it. We'll get into the details of this, but thoughts, 5 words or less.
This is gross.
Duh.
Sounds about right.
That's almost all, folks. You know? Because that's all, folks.
It's from, nope,
Porky Pig, it's a saying in Hollywood.
This is a serious topic, wow.
You know that breaks me.
I'll get back to it. Okay, sorry.
You wanted to laugh too, Brett.
Okay, so here's the thing. Back to this is serious. This is crazy. This is 94% doesn't happen pretty much ever. Yeah. 94%. The graphic that I saw from the USA Today said that unwelcome sexual advances, jokes, or gestures, 87% of people, to or about you, 87% of women said yes. Witnessing others experience unwanted forms of sexual comments, 75% of people said yes. Being touched in a sexual way at work, 69%. These are ridiculously high numbers. Witnessing others advance professionally from sexual relationships with employers or managers, 65% said yes. Proposition for sexual act or relationship, 64%. And 10%, that's the lowest number we have, 10% said they were ordered unexpectedly to appear naked for auditions.
Yeah, this industry's toxic. Am I wrong, guys? This industry, it is. And the thing that was really harrowing for me is that they said that a lot of older women would never come forward. Yeah. They just accepted that some of them didn't even know they were being mistreated or mishandled.
That was an interesting statistic that I saw as well. The number of, I think it was like 1/3 of the respondents that said they weren't sure if what they had experienced would qualify as a sexual assault or a sexual harassment. And that is that really speaks volumes.
Yeah. What does that mean?
That's where we are
in
America. That if someone tells a dirty joke or shows a picture and you're standing around a couple of people and everyone laughs, you learn the rules. You learn that this is okay here. That it's gonna be bad for me if I complain. It's gonna be, and women are already you know what I mean? They're already at a weird point, a weird space where you're worried about being that woman or that, and because people put that on you. Yeah. And so I think I wasn't surprised by the older women. The people who had been in the business longer weren't reporting it compared to the people who had been in the business with less than 5 years, because I think it's learned behavior. You learn that no one will say no, because of those people who reported something, most of them, nothing was done. And so think about it, if you've been in the business for a couple of years and you're like, whoa, this is crazy, not used to this. So you tell someone, nothing happens. Then you tell your friends nothing happens, and then slowly you guys learn that this is just the way of the world. And it's not just Hollywood. That's why I'm not surprised. It's every woman, everywhere.
They say that it's more in Hollywood than the average, but the average is still, the average is still ridiculously high.
I think it's because, when we talk about this, it's because people want to work in this industry. You want to be successful in this industry. We feel that we come here, LA in this industry is built on prom kings and queens that were the shit in their town, right? So they want to come to LA to be amazing. They're realizing that, hey, you know what? The competition's stiff, but I'm not gonna fail. So what do? I have to acquiesce and like you say, play the game. And you brought up that, a lot of the younger generation, the silver lining in this was that, yes, you had these women, they said 40% of women that have been in the business for a long time have come to become accustomed to this, but the newer generation now with how big Me Too is and Time's Up isn't gonna stand for it anymore. And yes, it's women, but men experience that too. People of color, the LGBTQ+, they also have different types of harassment and treatment within the business.
Just such a weird position. There was this Dallas Mavericks story that broke where the president of the organization, not the owner, the owner's Mark Cuban, the president of the organization said to a woman, if this was a different world, after already sexually harassing her in ways that were undeniable, say, if this was a different world, would you marry me? Or something like that. And she said, her response was, if this was a different world, I'd be a millionaire and you'd work for me and you couldn't handle it. Just the fact that she has to craft a response like that is the right response. It is so crappy that is a response you have to craft. It is so subtle and nuanced, as opposed to the response that should be the default, which is, that is absolutely terrible. Don't ask me questions like that. You're sexually harassing me.
But why someone should say that though? I think that
people had within the organization. There were folks that went and reported it to HR, and HR looks around and apparently says, well, I value my relationship with the president of this organization more than I value getting rid of the toxic work environment. And so things like this happen. And it takes scandal after scandal breaking out before something actually happens to change it.
And in between those scandals that I think is important to bring up, because that was like the largest percentage of people that respond to the survey, is those little micro things that people say or jokes that people make that just allow for it to just build and build until it gets so toxic that it bursts out into another scandal, because it's sort of implied that this sort of behavior is okay because of the backhanded comments that people make that you probably don't consider as sexual harassment, but are absolutely inappropriate comments, and that people make all the time. Companies that I've worked for, even I spoke with an older company that I worked for, like a film studio for a while, and after I left, they asked me about something that had happened with an executive there at the time, and I talked to them and I was like, you're really lucky that I have a really thick skin, but as soon as this guy found out I was a lesbian, it was just a whole bunch of gay shit that was just thrown at me, which is not, I'm not his homie. I'm not here to like lead him through gay culture. I don't want to answer his weird questions.
Right.
But I know for a fact that he thought that they were sort of harmless things, but that's harassment. Like, leave me alone. And that's the sort of thing that just sort of happens, and it happens in Hollywood, but it happens in other industries as well. It's little things that just make it seem okay for other major things that will then happen, and you need to like nip it in the bud, and that's the culture shift that we're in right now.
What's not okay is I'm glad you brought that up, Grace, because I think people feel, well, what I don't accept is when you do stick up for yourself, especially in the nature that you did in regards to your sexuality, then you become, or let's say I get angry, then I'm the angry black man, or Brooke, you get angry, you're the black bitch. Because you're being assertive and standing up for yourself, and we need to be cognizant of that. That's not okay either. Because if the tables were turned, you wouldn't want to be treated that way. And I think
I have PTSD with that phrase.
What phrase?
Ooh, it's too.
Yeah, it's right. Like, exactly, because that's the first thing they could say about you is that, oh, he's the angry black man. He's got this chip on his shoulder, or she's, and I've heard this verbatim said about people, like, oh, she's just a black bitch. All because you're sticking up for something that you should stick up for yourself. You're protecting your territory. You're protecting your ground, and that needs to change as well. So I'm glad you let them have it.
You also have to acknowledge that you can't really stick up to the president. There's only when there's in a company, and let's just talk about a pretend company. When there's a president, there's usually only like 1 or 2 people that can fire them. And usually when you've gotten to the place to where you are in public, out loud, just saying whatever you want and doing whatever you want, they know.
Yeah.
So who do you tell?
It's difficult. The Me Too movement has raised awareness about this, board of directors, but now I have noticed that there are some companies that are making tangible changes. The companies I work for a talent agency that is wildly different from an HR perspective now than it was before.
Good.
But that's still an obstacle to overcome.